let's jump to this story from the Post Millennial, which is currently loading. Here we go. Resurfaced footage shows United CEO performing Lady Gaga drag routine at company Halloween party. Okay. For a variety of reasons, I am going to hereby announce, where possible, Timcast will no longer use United for any of its travel. I mean it. So we book, I think we have 1.5 flights per day for this show.
Dang.
And so the reason it's 1.5 is that guest flies in, same day guest flies out.
Yeah.
So that actually, I think we might be doing 2 per day. Two flights per day, not 1.5, 2 per day, and 1 or 2 on the weekends. And then Pop Culture Crisis has a guest on the weekends. We don't book flights for every single guest. Some people come from DC. It's one of the reasons we chose to be in the area, because a lot of higher profile political commentators are local. Yeah. Some people who live in like Philly can drive down. It's only a couple hours. So there's a wide range of areas that we're in, but typically we're flying people out every day. And I have already instructed the staff. I said, is it possible for us to completely ditch United Airlines? And we believe it is. I want to be careful on how I describe this, because when you're dealing with something as big as an airline, when there's actually very few, it may not be possible in some circumstances to say we won't use United. That's why I say where possible. However, I'm pretty sure American Airlines operates in all the exact same areas. That being said, the challenge with any kind of boycott is that, American Airlines, Delta, and all these brands are doing the exact same garbage. The issue here is that the CEO himself has advocated for illegal activities. That's right. Commit crimes. The CEO of United has advocated for hiring on the basis of race, which is a violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. That's illegal. And so long as this company has a guy doing a drag Lady Gaga routine where he celebrates breaking the law and being racist, we are not going to utilize their airline. Now, I know. In 10 seconds, someone's going to point at American Airlines and they're going to say, look at all these bad things they're doing. And to which I say, okay, Spirit Airlines it is. But I don't know.
Some of our guests are like, we don't want to go anymore. We'll pay for our own travel.
It's funny. I was looking at the United thing, and I said this morning, I even tweeted, I said, I don't really feel that safe no more being on their planes after seeing that.
It's a rough time for air travel.
It's kind of wacky.
It is, isn't it? I mean, like,
I'm very nervous.
The all-female, like, black flight crew, it's like, man, that just don't look right, man. It's not right. I want a man at the front of it. Honestly, I don't care.
I want the doors. I want the doors to stay on the plane.
And it'll sound racist.
Are crazy high.
It'll sound racist and it'll sound kind of coonish. But honestly, I'm safer feeling if there's a white man flying my plane. Only because every time I've flown, it's been a white pilot. I like what I'm used to. It's what I'm used to.
The issue here is these diversity hire practices make people. They exacerbate racism.
Yeah.
Because if you say, we are going to hire lower on the ladder to be diverse, the assumption then is the pilot you have who's not white must be not as skilled.
Yes.
And that's not fair. Could you imagine being like the best pilot in the world and you're black, but then everyone's like, yeah, he's probably not that good. I'll be like, come on, man. Like, I worked my ass off for this, and then these far leftists come in and start making the claim that everyone's got to hire lower down on the talent pool. They're making the problem worse.
Yeah.
There was a Gallup poll that said 52% of Black Americans oppose affirmative action, and they like the affirmative action ban that the Supreme Court did.
I hate Democrats, man.
Yeah. Well.
Democrats talk to black people. The Yale study, remember this one?
Yes, they talk down to people. They talk down to black people.
But talk down, is that like the right way to phrase it? They dumb down their language and act stupid when they're talking to black people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because they've conditioned us to think that way and speak that way. They've made that our language, that dumbed down slang type language, that simpler type terms, the non-political verbiage, really.
Like when they were pushing Ebonics.
Yeah.
Look at this. Look at this. This is from 2018. White liberals dumb themselves down when they speak to black people, a new study contends. I despise these people so much, dude.
I mean, I think that's definitely true. Just having been in lefty circles for my entire life, I think that's definitely true. I had a friend tell me that she preferred the racism of the South to the racism of the North. She was like, at least in the South, you know that they're racist. They say that they're racist, then they treat you normally. In the North, they say they're not racist, and then they're racist at you.
Okay, but then the Scientific American ran this article this year saying black children who speak African American English are routinely misdiagnosed with speech disorders. So they're saying, like,
everyone's misdiagnosed with disorders these days.
Sure, of course, but also there's this level of, like, this institution, which because we know educators are predominantly left-leaning, they're saying you're supposed to act this way culturally, but also we're misdiagnosing you. I mean, this is like the most conflicting information to give, especially young children. The way you speak is okay sometimes, but also in school, except maybe we think it's wrong.
And then they complain about code switching.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's all mixed messages. Yeah.
I just thought that was a crazy headline.
When I went to Sweden, I said it was one of the most racist places I've ever been to.
Oh, wow.
And everyone was shocked, but they're also lefty and they're like progressive. And I'm like, yeah. And they put all their migrants into enclaves where they separate them, brag about how not racist they are, and then don't hire them. I'm like, it is this air of I'm such a better person, I'm not racist. And then when it actually comes down to practice, they're like, oh no, get away from me.
Yeah.
That's what we see with white liberals in the United States even. But going back to, United, here's the video. We'll play it for you. I know you guys don't want to watch it, but you're gonna have to. So okay.
How would you respect someone who, like, if this was your boss and this is what you were looking at?
Now, this was a Halloween part. This was like a Halloween thing, but it was still a company Halloween thing.
Okay, I got to be honest. I really don't care that the dude is doing Lady Gaga drag stuff. It's like whatever, man. I guess. I think Lady Gaga makes great pop music. More power to her. If this guy, gets his rocks off by dressing like a woman and dancing around in front of his employees, hey, I'm libertarian. Just keep the kids out of it. The issue is that he's in an interview with Axios bragging about how he intends to break the law. He's sitting there being like, I'm a criminal and a racist at the same time, and I want to cause harm to this country. I'm like, dude, screw you. This is just like, okay. I said this. I personally boycotted United long before we knew the CEO was some weirdo. You know what I mean? Some racist.
Well, because United
guy.
is not good. I have flight credits with them, and once I'm using them up, and then we're done.
I just
don't fly United, man. I'll tell you. We were flying back from, I think it was, I can't remember where we were. We were in California. I think it was when I went to Tijuana for the medical stuff. And then on the way back over the weekend, we stopped in Vegas. That's what happened. When we were flying back from Vegas, United at 3 a.m. switched my plane ticket to a different plane without telling me. So when I showed up at the airport, my ticket wasn't working. I had to get a different ticket. Bad. And then they put me from first class, a ticket I bought, and they put me into the back, into the basic economy seats.
That's crazy.
And they still charge you for first class?
As far as I know, I never got. I attempted a chargeback saying I did not buy these tickets. I want a refund. I want my money back. I don't know what happened with it. To be clear, I think I got a refund. I'm not sure, but I think I did. But I'm sitting here thinking, like, how is it that I paid all this money, and now all of a sudden the charges stole my credit card? I'm on a totally different plane to a different city, in a different seat I didn't pick. And my flight was still flying out on schedule. The issue was that the flight, so it was like Houston to DC, and the flight I was supposed to be on in Houston was delayed. So they took it upon themselves to move me to without telling me. And I'm like, I could have just gone to Houston and then opted for a flight there.
Right. Yeah.
Just because my flight was delayed does not. I was livid. It's insane that they would do that. They put me on a flight from Vegas to Denver to DC.
That's annoying. And
they do it because they're probably thinking, we don't want people sitting in the airport. If we can get them to their destination, just do it. Don't ask them. Screw United. Do not fly United. If you do, you're supporting, racists. You don't want to be racist, do you? Right? Do you, Hannah Claire?
Why are you asking me? Wow. No, I'm just kidding. The thing is, I can't take this person seriously. Like, I get it. He can do whatever. It's not that I don't want him to not do whatever brings him joy. It's just like, if this is your boss, and like, I get it's a company Halloween party, but like,
it's about choices.
I don't know. Like,
that's just, if he chooses to represent himself that way, how does he represent his airline?
When your Boeing Max 737-9 is crashing, the last thing that's going to go through your head is going to be this video.
That's horrifying. I'd hate that.
Yeah, that is horrifying. I fly a lot for work. I travel a lot. And I've been increasingly wary of air travel.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, can I just drive across the country? What if we just do that?
Do you remember COVID when people road tripped all kinds of places?
Yeah, but I was flying during COVID because the airports were empty. The only people you ever saw in the airports were wearing MAGA hats, and you'd be like, hey, what's going on?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was cool. There was nobody on the
never
flight,
flew
and it was
during that
just a
time.
bunch of conservatives and Trump supporters flying around the country being
That's
like,
cool.
it's cheap.
Cheap
Mark
plane tickets,
Cuban's
yeah.
debating people online about like diversity and stuff, but there's one point that Mark Cuban cannot ever refute. Publicly stating your intention to hire someone based on race is a criminal act. It's admission of guilt in the intention to commit a crime. We have a law in this country that's been there for 60 years that you cannot discriminate on the basis of race. And Mark Cuban's like, no, it's a good thing. Okay, well, look, it's really simple. If you got an issue with what Mark Cuban is saying, sue him. It's about time everybody who's sick of the diversity quota stuff starts suing. The moment any company, okay, so first you need standing. So if there's a company that says, we're only, let's say you guys listen, you're listening. Okay, tell your friends this. You work for a company, right? They say we got a new position or we're promoting, but it's for people of color. File a lawsuit. You will win in 2 seconds. You'll put 10 grand in your pocket. It is illegal what they are doing. You cannot do this. There's you see this all the time with like housing. It was a big deal because on Craigslist, there are a bunch of women who say like no men allowed. And you cannot discriminate in housing, and it caused a lot of problems. There are guys who sue bars. The bars will have ladies' night, and they'll say 20% off all drinks for women. And so there's like this old guy. He's like there's an older guy who's in his late 50s who just goes around the country suing these bars. He instantly wins. You know why? Because the bar gets served the lawsuit, and they say, "What is this? We're being sued for having ladies' night." And their lawyer says, "Yeah, that's illegal. You should pay him." And they'll be like, he wants 10 grand. I'll be like, you should pay him because you're going to lose and it's going to cost you more than that. And they write him a check and then they cancel ladies' night. If that's been going on for 20 years.
All I can think of is John Lovitz.
Anybody who works for United right now should be filing a lawsuit, calling a lawyer and saying, the CEO on Axios said they have quotas for people of color. I feel like I am being held back and not being given a raise because of my race, blah, blah, blah. The company has explicitly stated, the CEO, they illegally discriminate in the workplace. Sue them.
Women or people of color, so they just classify both of them into like either or.
Yeah, that's
just kind of
how the
disingenuous to
Civil
me.
Rights Act is written. It's
But that's
and then
still
now it's retro.
disingenuous.
Yeah, it is, and now it's retroactively gender identity is part of
crazy.
it. Yeah.
Oh man.
So everywhere it says
But
protections for women, it's protections for gender identity.
That makes me mad.
I wonder
Did
if,
you see the thing where like now you can pick non-gender or opposite gender on your passport? On your
That's going to
American
work out
passport?
They've
really
been
well for
issuing,
you
like-
when you fly to other countries
Right.
and they
Oh,
arrest
wow.
you.
That's right. And that's what they said. That's what the State Department said. They were like, some countries won't honor this passport if you,
And
you
they'll
know,
arrest you.
lie on it. And you can also
Right.
lie on your child's birth certificate now. You can put on X gender.
I'm for
Oh,
it.
this-
I'm for it. So look, I got to tell you, man,
You're like, just go as far as you can and make yourselves insane, like looking
No,
as
look.
insane as you can.
accelerated.
creating a false document, when you go to the U.S., the purpose of a passport is to identify you to a foreign country. They will then choose to grant you access. Some countries have what's called visa upon entry. A lot of them do. Some of them they don't have visa on entry, but they basically do. Like, I think when I went to Egypt, that you show up, you walk up to there's a counter, and then they give you a visa, you pay the money, they stamp your passport. Then you go to immigration control, and that's not visa on entry because you had to go to a kiosk. A lot of countries, you walk right in. You walk up, you say, I got an American passport. They say, stamp, thank you for your money. Some countries don't do this and scroll. They go through your passport, identify you, and you have to have pre-approval before entering this country. If you lie on your passport and then apply for a visa and then show up, and the person at the border, customs or whatever for this country says you applied for a visa claiming to be a man but you're a woman, or you're a woman claiming to be a woman but you're a man, denied.
You are a liar.
You're in serious trouble.
You are
and
not allowed in.
Here's the other thing too. It's going to get really, really interesting because when you're trying to fly internationally to a country that requires a visa, the airlines will say, please, check in to prove you have the visa. Because if, say, United flew you to Brazil and you did not have a visa, guess who's responsible for bringing you there? Now, what happens if you go to United and, you're very clearly a man, but your passport says woman and you have a visa and the visa says the same thing because you apply online, to get like a visa, you go through a broker and they send in the photos and then Brazil will approve. Then you show up and they go, you lied. You are not a woman. You're a man. Why are you trying to sneak into the country? It's going to be funny when United approves you You land, and then they say, United, why did you allow this person to lie on their visa and come to this country? You're responsible. And then United's like, oops. It's going to be crazy because, look, there's a lot of countries that are not going to tolerate this. So you got all these, right now, there's not that many people who do it. Like, what was it? The low thousands of individuals who've actually changed their passports. Mm-hmm. But this is why I tell people, like, some people even joke about it, like, oh, I'm going to get an X on my ID because it's funny. I'm like, nah, you shouldn't do that.
It's really dumb.
Yeah, because then one day you're going to be like hanging out and I don't know, you're going to go on vacation to like to Romania or something. And someone's going to look at your ID and they're going to be like, this is fake. You're under arrest.
Yeah.
You know?
Plus, I feel like we should like the gender thing before it goes away. We should be like, yes, put my gender on my passport because one day it'll be vintage and they will just remove it entirely.
Like, it also though speaks to what we were talking about earlier with regard to trusting the federal government. How do you trust a government that allows fabricated federal documents? Like, that's just crazy. Like, oh, the United States government puts out identification documents that are rife with lies and they approve that. Why would you?
It makes you question anything else they put out,
yes,
right? Like,
any official document.
Any official study, anything they fund.
Yes, which already we're in trouble.
Which is like kind of how we operate anyways.
Yeah.
Dude, this stuff's so weird. It's just it's social breakdown right before our eyes. Yeah. No one is asking you your gender because they're trying to insult you or your sex. Nobody's saying like, tell me what's in your underwear. That's the argument they make. Why do you want? I think it's really funny because they always try to pull this thing where they're like, Tim wants genital inspections for sporting events. And I was like, it's called the physical. Everyone gets one.
Yep.
Like, I don't know why calling it a genital inspection, but you get a physical. You go to the doctor to make sure you're okay. What are you talking about?
Every Olympic athlete ever is like, yes, sounds good. This is completely normal procedure.
It's funny because the left's argument is if we say males can't compete in female sports, it would require genital inspections. And I'm like, dude, they take their blood. Yes. They like extract the blood from these athletes, which is much more invasive.
Also, it's a lie anyway, because you don't need a genital inspection to tell the difference between a boy and a girl or a man and a woman. No. It's blatantly obvious just by looking at them, even from across the room. You can tell the difference.
That's all made up
between men and women.
Libby, I don't know what you're talking about. It's all pretend.
Obvious. It's just obvious.
It just depends on how you feel. Like that, I was listening to some NPR interview when I was coming in today, and they were talking about like, oh yeah, I mean, gender is not real, and masculinity and femininity.
Gender is not real.
They were saying masculinity and femininity are made up concepts, but how can that be possible if we see the patterns repeated over and over again? I think this is the weird thing that all of these conversations are trying to do, which is that your brain desires to categorize and process information as fast as it possibly can, right? Yeah. And so the idea that we have identified a difference between males and females that's both physical but also psychological, it presents itself in behaviors, like this is super normal. It helps us advance as a society. Why would you want to be like, actually, it all doesn't matter. Actually, it all means nothing. Actually, if you assume any of this stuff, you're bigoted and hateful and you should question yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, why would you want there to be chaos unless you in some way thrive in the chaos or profit off it?
Yeah, or it furthers your own rewriting of reality.
And your own sense of discontent within yourself, right? Like you need other people to be miserable because you yourself are miserable.
Right. Misery loves company should be like the motto for trans.
I think that is one of the weird things that happens though. People who see people who are like thriving and doing well want them to suffer also.
The left entirely.
Yeah. The left entirely is misery loves company.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying.
What a horrible way to live, you know? Like that when Biden, I've talked about this a couple times, but when Biden did his first speech, he was saying, you know, we're the party of the future and they're the party that wants to divide and hates you. Anyways, I'm going to spend this whole time fear-mongering and telling you how this like MAGA extremist group is trying to ruin the government, and also I'm only going to talk about stuff.
I believe the shielding is what created the misery. They were shielded from everything, shielded from criticism, shielded from bullying, all of the stuff.
Well, it's because of cowards.
Yeah.
It's because of cowards. You know, I think of it like a fire, right? You've got a small fire in the kitchen, and when this first started, you needed only a few people who knew how and were willing to put the fire out and deal with it. Instead, everyone stood around and was just like, it's not my kitchen. I'm not doing anything. Yeah. And so they watched as the fire grew and grew and grew. And it got to the point until finally it caught the attention of people who tried to put it out. And now we're winning. We're pushing back on it. If just when all this wokeness started, the people who were working for these companies just said, shut your mouth we would never have gotten to this point.
Yeah. And at the time, I remember because, like I spoke out against trans stuff in theater in New York, and that didn't go super well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, didn't go super well. But no one else was willing to speak out, even my friends who all agreed with me, right? But they wouldn't speak out. And you could see all over the place, people would say quietly, they're making me put my pronouns in my bio for work. I don't agree with it, but they would do it anyway. And there was so much cancel culture that people would say, I'm afraid to speak out, and it'd be like, oh, it's too bad that you're afraid to speak out. And it's like, at the time, I remember saying to people, like, if we just all said the truth, if we all just spoke up, we couldn't get canceled,
right?
Because there's way more of us than there are of them. We know what reality is. We know what the truth is. And all we have to do is stand up, stand on the word, speak up, say the truth. And everyone was afraid to do it. We were all just pushed around by like the green-haired mean girls with nose piercings who were screaming at us, telling us we were bigots.
This silent majority phenomenon has been going on for a long time. I mean, this is also true of saying that you should restrict immigration over the border. For a long time, Republicans were afraid to talk about this. Democrats at one point were the ones calling for border restrictions, and ultimately became this, you're being racist, you're being anti-humanitarian, people need this, you can't talk about this. And then culture shifted, and it suddenly became something that you could talk about. I find this
it's because people kept talking. Like a bunch of us just kept talking, like, even though we lost our jobs or friends or whatever.
And I think it's just like nothing new under the sun, kind of one of those things, because cancel culture, I feel like any party that embraces cancel culture, they only have about 8 years maximum to have that dominance. Because I remember in the past, distinctively, when I was younger, my mom was a Republican Christian, and she was also a part of Christian cancel culture. I remember it being a thing, like canceling Harry Potter, canceling GTA, canceling NWA. That was Christian canceling these things. And leftists,
that was Tipper Gore too. Tipper Gore hated all that.
And
stuff.
They copied what Christians really did and magnified it. It intensified it to the point that we see now. But since it's intensified, I say conservatives had their grasp on America through cancel culture maybe like 12 years. Since it's so much stronger, I think liberals only have about 6 max.
Yeah, it's kind of running out.
Supreme dominance. People could only take so much, just like maybe with conservatives. They could only take so much with liberals. They took it way too far, too fast. And we just don't have that, the patience for it. It's a lot. If you hit, as hard as you hit, you'll leave just as fast.
Was that frustrating for you growing up if your mom was the one being like, you can't do these things?
Well, yeah,
or did you see the value
wasn't really
in it?
that. She was just joining the boycotts. I remember like with Harry Potter, I could never watch Harry Potter, or if she ever seen a Harry Potter book, my mom would burn the book because she said,
it's hard to burn a book. It's not easy
she would
to
find a way.
set
She
a
was
book up.
committed.
She would find a way. She would find a way. She would put
And
it
did
in
she tell you like, I'm doing this because I believe this? Or were you just like, my mom's wild?
Christian conservative belief. She'll say that's witchcraft, that's the devil, don't fund token. And I think it's kind of funny because that's one of the main people speaking out against transgenderism now, which is crazy. So it really just shows how things come full circle. Conservatives were canceling her in the past. Now liberals are canceling her.
Right.
Over two different
totally different things.
I think sometimes there's this, especially if something's been popular culture, people feel like, oh, well, I don't want my kid to like resent me for keeping this from them.
Yeah.
And so they're hesitant to say like, this is why we don't do this as a family, or like they're trying to find a way to sort of balance. And I can understand that. It must be really difficult. I don't have kids. I can't imagine the challenge. Maybe Libby can talk about it. But that idea that your mom was like, it's not even that you can't read it, it's that we're going to burn it. It's kind of fascinating.
There was a lot of Christians, or at least conservatives around my area, would not engage in any of those things. They didn't call it cancel culture at the time. It was called standing on your beliefs or standing for Christ. But in a political sense, it is cancel culture, in my opinion. Canceling GTA, a video game, now it's looked absurd. But back then, it was very serious business.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.